Welcome to a deep dive. You know, observing the world from a Christian perspective, it often means looking, well, a bit deeper, asking those bigger questions.
Right, going beyond the surface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today we're doing just that. We're plunging into a really fascinating and very timely topic. Man of steel and light of spirituality. Man, machine, and God from a Christian perspective.
hmm
And this isn't just about the amazing tech we're seeing everywhere. It's more about exploring how faith, especially using the lens of these source materials you've shared with us, helps us make sense of it all, helps us navigate this new era of, well, universal robot.
Exactly, yeah. We've got this stack of sources, and a really key one is titled, When Man of Steel Meets Light of Spirituality, Man, Machine, and God in the Era of Universal Robots from a Christian Perspective.
Okay.
So our mission really is to use the wisdom in these pages and the other materials we have, all anchored in that Christian worldview, to get a real handle on what these new general-purpose robots are.
GPRs. Yeah.
Right, GPRs, and to wrestle with the implications of AI, and importantly, see how our faith actually guides our response, as this tech becomes just part of our daily lives.
Okay, let's unpack that then. These general-purpose robots, GPRs,
hmm
what exactly are they? Because the sources make it clear they're not like the old clunky factory robots we might picture.
Oh, definitely not. That's right. The sources, they describe them as fundamentally different. Think multifunctional, programmable tools. They're designed to adapt to just incredibly varied tasks, different environments.
So adaptable.
Hugely adaptive. They're moving out of those specialized industrial settings, the factories,
Yeah.
and becoming these assistants that could potentially be like all-purpose housekeepers someday. They've got this steel body, so to speak, that can physically interact with the world in really complex ways.
And the examples in the sources really drive this home, don't they? I mean, some of this sounds like science fiction, but it's happening now.
Absolutely. It really is. Take the home, for instance. There's this 1X Technologies NEO Gamma robot from Norway.
Oh.
One source describes it, calmly making breakfast. It's using a flexible arm to handle things, pouring milk really precisely. But here's the kicker. It can learn super complex tasks just by watching. It actually learned to fry a steak by watching someone do it in VR.
Seriously? VR cooking lessons for robots.
Yeah. And get this. After only 3 practice runs, it could control the temperature precisely within plus or minus 3 degrees Celsius. That's incredibly fast learning and adaptation right there in a kitchen setting.
Wow, frying steak by watching VR.
Yeah.
That's a wild image. So what about outside the home?
Well, in service industries, you've got robots like Figure AI's Figure 01. It's shown navigating a restaurant,
Okay.
understanding voice commands, dodging unexpected obstacles like someone walking past, adjusting its path in real time, all while carrying trays. That shows a level of awareness, responsiveness. It's a big leap.
And industry too, right? I mean, robots have been there for ages, but this sounds different.
Totally different. Yeah, the sources talk about something almost like, transformers in the factory. Robots like Xeon-Tech's AlphaBot 2. They're working in places like semiconductor plants.
High-tech stuff.
Exactly. And this robot has an incredible 34 degrees of freedom. It can bend, maneuver, pick up boxes in really tight spots. It's got 360-degree perception.
Wow.
And then there's Tesla's Optimus, used in car manufacturing for welding, assembly, switching tools. But what's really fascinating is its AI vision lets it spot flaws and auto-repair them as it works.
It fixes its own mistakes.
Essentially, yeah. Plus, it can adapt to build new car models just through updates from the cloud. The goal isn't just automation anymore. It's making robots intelligent, adaptable enough that, maybe one robot does the work of 3 people.
That kind of dexterity, that adaptive intelligence, that's really something. And they're even in medicine now. Delicate fields like that.
Yes, that was really striking in the materials. The Tianji orthopedic surgery robot, it assists in spine surgery.
Spine surgery, okay.
Yeah, with astonishing accuracy. The sources cite 0.3 millimeter precision. Just think about that level of control for something so critical.
Incredible.
It uses force sensors to gauge, drill depth, and it dynamically adjusts its path based on these detailed 3D models from CT scans. And rehab, too. Robots like one from Peryang Healthcare are helping stroke patients regain movement.
How does that work?
Well, it helps with gait training, simulates natural biomechanics, adjusts the intensity based on how the patient's doing, measured by pressure sensors. It's got safety brakes, obviously, and it even offers voice encouragement.
Okay, so these are definitely not just simple machines. They're perceiving, learning, adapting, interacting in really complex ways. What's the tech making this possible? What are the leaps?
The sources point to a few key areas. One is multimodal perception. Think of UC Berkeley's Fuse Tech. It combines visual, tactile touch, and even auditory data.
So multiple senses.
Exactly. Like the example given is identifying fabric in a drawer even if the robot can't see it. Maybe it relies on touch or the sound it makes. It gives robots more ways to understand the world than just sight.
Right.
Then there's autonomous learning. DeepMind's RoboCat gets mentioned. It can learn totally new tasks from just 100 human demos.
Only 100. That's not much data.
It's really efficient learning. And crucially, it can then transfer those skills to different types of robot arms, and it improves its success rate just through trial and error on its own.
Learning from mistakes, like us. Well, sort of.
Sort of, yeah, with some very key differences we need to get into. And the energy side is vital, too. Powering these things is tough.
Right, batteries.
Yeah. The Ennio Gamma robot, that breakfast-making one, it has a bio-inspired flexible drive using steel cables that reduces friction, helps the battery last longer, up to 4 hours, they say. And new motor designs, like the Revo 1 with something called a Hallback array, give much better power for their weight, like 30% better torque to weight, letting them lift pretty heavy objects.
Okay, so you combine better senses, faster learning, more power, and you get these truly general-purpose machines. What's the predicted impact? Where's this heading?
Well, the outlook presented is frankly massive growth. The sources suggest robots could become as common as integrated into our lives as, say, smartphones are now.
Wow, that common.
That's the projection. They foresee a whole new era of human-machine collaboration. There's even talk of potential remote control via things like the metaverse, enabling stuff like caring for elderly parents from far away.
That scale of change.
Yeah.
It sounds huge. One source even quotes Elon Musk saying GPRs could be more profound change than the internet.
Yeah, it really underscores the massive shift we're looking at. But okay, this brings us right to the heart of our deep dive today. Moving beyond the impressive steel body, the technology, to the light of spirituality.
Right, the Christian perspective.
Exactly. What do these sources say about that? The fundamental question they tackle first is, from this viewpoint, what is a robot?
And the answer seems pretty clear and foundational in these materials, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The core distinction the sources draw, and they root it firmly in Scripture, is that robots are tools. They are not life.
Tools versus life.
Yeah. They contrast a living soul like Adam receiving the breath of life directly from God in Genesis with a lifeless object. Robots, no matter how sophisticated, how seemingly intelligent, are described as programmed tools. Extensions of human intelligence, human creativity. They just lack that inherent God-given life. They don't have true free will or a spiritual nature.
So from this perspective, creating these complex machines isn't seen as like playing God or trying to replicate actual life.
No, not within this framework. The development of technology, including advanced robotics, is actually viewed as a kind of fulfillment of the human mandate from God. Back in Genesis 1, the call to have dominion over the earth.
The cultural mandate.
Exactly, part of that cultural mandate. The call to wisely use and develop the resources, the capabilities God has given us to shape the world. Whether that was Cain making tools way back when, or Solomon building the temple, or engineers today coding robots, it's seen as part of that same stream.
So the purpose isn't just tech for tech's sake.
Precisely. The ultimate purpose, according to these sources, of these machines is to assist humans so that humans can better fulfill humanity's primary purpose or calling, which is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. The tech serves us so we can better serve God.
In that view, it offers a kind of safeguard, doesn't it, against getting carried away?
It really does. This perspective strongly warns against, well, two main dangers. First is anthropomorphizing, mistakenly giving robots real human feelings, intentions, consciousness.
Treating them like people.
Right. And the second is divinizing, treating them as if they have some kind of inherent sacredness or ultimate power or value that really only belongs to God, or to beings made in His image, like humans. They're seen as neutral tools, like the sources mention an ox used for work in Deuteronomy. Valuable, helpful, yes, but still just a tool, used wisely, ethically, but not worshipped or mistaken for being alive itself.
Okay, and this leads to a really thought-provoking idea in the sources, this concept of AI as a double mirror. What exactly do they mean by that?
Yeah, it's a powerful image, isn't it? The idea is that AI, from a Christian viewpoint, simultaneously reflects two different aspects of reality.
Yeah.
So on one hand, you have mirror one, reflecting God's universal grace.
Okay, how does AI reflect grace? That sounds interesting.
Well, its capabilities can, in a way, hint at God's own attributes.
Hmm.
And maybe more directly, they reflect the wisdom and the capacity that God has graciously given to humanity. Think about that multimodal perception combining different senses. That can remind us, maybe just faintly, of God's omnipresence or his all-knowing nature, like it talks about in Psalm 139, or autonomous learning, the ability to learn and improve from experience that mirrors the human capacity for growth and wisdom, which is also seen as a gift from God.
So the cleverness in the AI, the human ingenuity behind it, that points back to the creator who gave us that ability in the first place.
Exactly, that's the idea. And specific examples from the tech itself kind of illustrate this God-given governance wisdom in action. The sources point to that almost unbelievable 0.3 millimeter precision of the surgical robots.
Yeah, the spine surgery one.
Right. That meticulous care for the incredibly intricate human body, it reflects the wonder of our own creation, echoed in Psalms like Psalm 139, "Your eyes saw my unformed body," or think about how those industrial robots coordinate via the cloud.
The Tesla factory example.
Yeah, that complex coordination, it can remind us of interconnectedness, diverse parts working together in unity, like Paul talks about the body with many parts in 1 Corinthians. Now, this isn't saying God is in the machine, not at all, but it's humanity extending our God-given ability to care for and manage the world through technology.
Okay, that's mirror one, reflecting grace and human capacity. What's the second mirror show us?
Mirror two, marking created limits. This is crucial. AI and robots, by their very nature, highlight everything they cannot do. They remind us of that fundamental, unbridgeable difference between the creation and the creator.
They can't cross that line.
Exactly. They cannot cross the chasm between created and creator, as one source puts it. Their limitations should actually humble us, point us away from the tech itself towards the true source of wisdom, which the book of James says is God who gives generously when we ask.
So what are some of those key limitations the sources bring up? Things robots just can't do.
Well, number one, they cannot possess genuine compassion. They might simulate emotional responses based on programming, but it's not real feeling. They can't grasp deep spiritual mysteries like the meaning of love never fails from 1 Corinthians 13.
Things beyond code.
Right. And fundamentally, crucially, they cannot give life. The sources reference Ezekiel 37, the breath of life comes from God alone. Machines can mimic, but they can't originate life.
So even when machines seem creative, generating art or writing code themselves, that's not seen as originating from the machine.
No. The sources frame that as an expression of human agency governance. It's humans leveraging the creativity God gave us, like the skilled artisans God empowered to build the tabernacle in Exodus. It's human creativity channeled through the machine, not some inherent spiritual life in the machine.
And understanding these limits, it also acts as a warning against putting too much faith or authority in technology itself, right?
Absolutely. It's a strong caution against what some call technocracy or technologism, the belief that tech is the ultimate answer, the ultimate value. While GPRs are a profound change, the sources are crystal clear. Only the redemptive work of Jesus Christ is the ultimate revolution that changes the human soul.
Powerful distinction.
It is. Machines can change the dusty work, the physical labor, the tasks we do, but they can't bring about that fundamental renewal of the mind that Paul talks about in Romans. As Augustine pointed out centuries ago, finite creations, no matter how advanced, just cannot grasp the infinite creator.
Okay, so if robots are these powerful tools, reflecting both God-given wisdom but also highlighting our limits, how should Christians actively respond? As this tech becomes more and more part of our world, what practical guidance do the sources give, rooted in those core truths like man is made in God's image and Christ is Lord of all?
Yeah, the response, according to these materials, needs to be guided by love, anchored in truth, and illuminated by hope.
Okay, let's take those one by one. Love is the rudder. How does that apply here with the robots and AI?
Well, it primarily calls us to compassion, especially thinking about the impact on people's jobs, on labor. As robots take over more repetitive tasks, freeing humans from that dusty work, Christians are challenged to kind of redefine working with our own hands, like it says in 1 Thessalonians.
Let's define it. How?
To include actively caring for those who might be displaced by automation. Ephesians 4 has mentioned the idea of laboring not just for ourselves, but so we have something to share with those in need.
So technology should ideally free us for something more human.
Exactly. That's the hope. It should free us for the tasks machines cannot do. Really listening to someone's pain, offering genuine forgiveness, comforting someone who's lonely, sharing the gospel message. These things require human presence, real empathy, spiritual engagement. And love also means designing the technology itself with compassion as a guide, especially in areas like healthcare, making sure patient dignity is always prioritized over just pure efficiency. And of course, using these tools ethically, avoiding any use that violates human dignity or core ethical principles.
Makes sense. Okay, next, truth as the anchor. What does truth keep us grounded against in this context?
It anchors us against potential confusion or maybe even a kind of nihilism, especially when machines get really good at simulating human interaction or emotion.
Right, the simulation gets very convincing.
It can. So truth reminds us that only God can satisfy the deepest longings of the human heart, like it says in Psalm 63. Machine companionship, however sophisticated it might become, just cannot replace the fulfillment found in a relationship with the Creator.
And it also protects the value of real human connection.
Crucially, yes, the sources really emphasize that virtual connections or companionship with a machine cannot substitute for genuine human community. Things like church fellowship, the command to love one another from 1 John, these are essential. And, in this age of the metaverse and remote tech, we have to uphold the God-ordained created order of relationships. Marriage is described as two becoming one flesh in Genesis. Honoring parents from Exodus requires personal presence, sincere devotion, as First Timothy puts it. Technology might assist in caring for elderly parents remotely, sure, but it can't replace the essence of that relationship, the dignity of embodied presence. Truth anchors us to the reality and the irreplaceable value of these God-designed human bonds.
Okay, love, truth, and finally, hope as the light. Where does Christian hope fit into this picture of rapidly advancing tech?
Hope lets us see the potential in technology, not as an end in itself, but as something that can, maybe in faint ways, point towards the coming kingdom of God.
How so?
Well, things like global collaboration made easier by 5G or cloud technology, you could see that as a faint echo of the kind of reconciliation and healing envisioned in God's future dwelling place among humanity, like in Revelation or the restoration described in Isaiah.
So it's not about technology building its own utopia, like a modern Tower of Babel driven by human pride.
Precisely. That's the warning against hubris. The ultimate Christian meaning found in technology isn't humanistic pride. It's seeing its potential, when used rightly under God, to maybe offer glimpses, foreshadowings of the coming kingdom. So we can hold both gratitude for the benefits like helping with healing, echoing God as healer in Exodus, and also maintain real concern about potential misuse, things like autonomous weapons.
Balancing hope and caution.
Exactly. But ultimately, the hope is grounded in trusting that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, as Romans 8 assures us, even amidst these massive technological shifts.
Which brings us back really to the fundamental role the sources assigned to us, to humanity, in this whole new era. We are stewards.
Yes, absolutely. Stewards appointed by God, stewards of the created order. It's a role that goes all the way back to Adam naming the animals, and it continues today as engineers write code for robots.
Long history of stewardship.
Right. And the rise of GPRs is presented as a significant new challenge to this ancient calling. The big question now is, how do we continue to honor the creator in our innovation? How do we protect human dignity in this age of human-machine collaboration? And how do we pass on eternal spiritual truths in a world increasingly defined by data and automation?
It's a huge task. Definitely requires wisdom.
It absolutely does. And the sources suggest approaching it with humility, always remembering that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, as the psalm says. It's a task undertaken with prayer, and always, always acting out of love for God and for our neighbor.
So, okay, pulling these threads together then. General-purpose robots, these GPRs, they're incredibly powerful tools. They reflect the amazing wisdom and grace God has given humanity. But, and this is key, they are fundamentally different from human life, from spirit.
A crucial difference.
And Christians are called to be responsible stewards in this rapidly changing era, navigating it all by applying these principles of love and truth, staying firmly anchored in the hope of God's ultimate plan, and always working to ensure that technology serves humanity and ultimately brings glory to the Creator.
That really captures the heart of the perspective offered in these sources, yeah.
It really leaves us, and you listening, with a crucial question to carry forward, especially as these remarkable machines become more and more present in our world. How will you ensure that the steel of technology in your life serves, rather than diminishes, the spirit of your human dignity, your relationships, and your ultimate purpose?
That's something to deeply consider for sure.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.